Hey, what's going on, guys? Dan is the Man262 here. I'm back for another tutorial on scripthookv.net. Today's tutorial is heavily requested. It's on synchronized scenes, and yeah, let's pretty much just get straight started. So if you don't know what a synchronized scene is, well, it's pretty much a animation where it's a player, or it doesn't necessarily have to be a player, but it's two entities performing animations pretty much together. So this can be maybe the player grabbing money off a table, player drilling. That's what today's tutorial is going to be, but yeah, there's a lot of possibilities. A lot of the cool animations in the game are all synchronized scenes. So I have on this notepad pretty much everything important for this tutorial. Things like these, like the formatting, is already in the description. That was in episode 1 if you haven't already watched that. But pretty much we'll need these native functions. I already copied them down, so we'll need create synchronized scene, just some basic stuff here, task synchronized scene, play synchronized entity animation or anim, and get synchronized scene phase. So I'll do a quick explanation of these, which is not really that important, but it still is. So this pretty much is sort of the ID for our scene. So each synchronized scene has an ID that is used to do other functions for it. So this will create our synchronized scene. We'll set an ID for it. This is to do an animation on the player, task synchronized scene, and then play synchronized entity animation is for an entity, so like a prop pretty much. And this will help us later on. Here are the prop names that we're going to use, and this is the animations that we're going to use. So first of all, on our script we'll need to go to references and add a reference. We'll add our scripthookv.net, and we'll add our system.windows.forms. So now we won't have any errors when it comes on here. Now we'll get started. So I'll start off basic by creating a single bool called scene active. Set this to false. So when this is set to false, this will disable our synchronized scene, and we'll also have an index for it, so or an integer rather, to handle switch index. So we'll go scene index, we'll just call it that, and we'll set this to -1 by default. Now what we want to do, on key down, we will go if e.keycode equals keys dot, I'll do D9, so that's just the standard number 9 on the keyboard. I'll do this because it's usually not taken up by any other mods. So in here we want to do scene active. We'll set this to true, which is what we already did. So this will enable it, and then we need to also set our scene index to we'll set it to 0. Alright. So on our on tick, we need to, this, if you don't already know, this is what loops. So in here we'll do scene active, which will only run if the scene active equals true. Pretty much this is just simplified way of doing scene active equals true. If you wanted to do not equals, exclamation mark at the front. So we'll add our brackets, and then in here we want to do a switch. So we want to do we'll type switch like this, and we'll put our scene index in here. And now we want to do case 0. This is what we set it to right here, case 0, and we'll obviously need a break. Alright, so in here we want to put pretty much our first code. So I'm going to create a few more cases, so I'm going to set this to 10. I always like to increment in larger numbers because it means it's easier to add a new thing in between these two. So say if I forget to do another step in between these, I can go case 5 and add another one. But you can always increment just by 1 if you want. But yeah. Okay. So I'll leave that as 10. Okay, so up here, what I'm going to do is we'll actually name our props in the globals up here. So we'll do prop duffel bag. We'll just do that. Prop drill, just like this. And that's pretty basic. We can even, if we want, I'll just actually, no, I won't, never mind. Alright, so what we'll do is we'll create a model for our, where is it? Our duffel bag. So model, duffel, we'll just call it bag model. Man, I don't even know how to spell duffel bag properly. Is it E-L, just like, whatever. Bag model equals new model. And we'll just format it like that. Alright, in here we're gonna paste, sorry, I didn't realize it did that. Pretty much this is a string, a text string, so this will be passed into here and it will convert it to the model. So we'll request this model, so we'll go bag model, the one that we just created, dot request. We'll set this to just 10,000. Now, to make sure we don't have any errors with this, we'll go if. This is pretty much to make sure that your script won't crash when it comes to loading and spawning models, because that's usually the reason that scripts will crash. So what we want to do is we want to go if bag model dot is valid and bag model dot is in CD image, and then we'll add our brackets, and in here we want to do while bag does not equal so exclamation mark bag model dot is loaded. We'll do script dot script dot wait 50. Alright, so pretty much this will make sure that it's valid, so it's a valid name for a prop and it's in the game files, and then it will pretty much, while the model is not loaded, the script will pretty much pause for 5 milliseconds, or is that 50 mil? I don't know. I think it's 5 milliseconds. But pretty much what we want to do after this is we'll spawn our duffel bag. So we'll go duffel bag, which needs to be the same as what we did up here, equals world.createProp, and in here we'll do our model, which is the bag model, and then we need a position for it, so we'll just do our character's position for the moment. Play.character.position, dynamic false, and place on ground false. Pretty much dynamic is if the prop can be bumped around by the player. So we have that. Also, well, that's pretty much good for that as it is at the moment. We'll just leave it like that, and then pretty much we want to do another one of these, so we'll go I would copy paste this like same as this one, however sometimes you'll just forget one thing and then it'll screw up everything, so I'll manually type it again. So drill model equals new model. Again, these model names will be in the description unless I forget. Right, then we'll do bag model dot request 10,000, and we'll do if bag model dot is valid and bag model dot is in CD image. While bag model isn't loaded, is loaded, so it isn't loaded because of the exclamation mark. We have to have that, otherwise the script will just pause forever. Script.wait 50. Then we'll do drill equals world.createProp, do our drill model. We'll do game.play.character.position again, and false and false. Alright. Always remember your semicolons at the end of your lines, otherwise you get issues. Like sometimes it doesn't tell you that it's right at the end here. Sometimes it'll say this is wrong, but it's because you forgot your semicolons. So just remember that. But you don't need semicolons after if statements and switches and all of those type of things. But you do need them after whiles. But pretty well, I don't actually know if because never mind, not really, but yeah, you still need them after whiles. Anyway, so now that is done, we don't want this to loop. So what we want to do is we want to go scene index equals 10. So make sure this number at the end is the same as this one, because otherwise, if you took my advice, just change your mind and set this to 1 at the start, and you need to set this to 1 as well, because otherwise it won't run the next bit. So pretty much I'll make these both 10. That's just some basic stuff. I better get that out the way, otherwise people might have issues with that later in the comments. But yeah, alright. So the next thing we want to do is we'll create the synchronized scene. So we'll need to create the integer, which is our synchronized scene value. So we'll go int sceneID. So this is up in our globals, back up here, and we'll want to go back, and down here we want to go sceneID, so that the one that we just created equals, oh sorry, not while, function dot call. We want to do a int like that with the sort of pointy bracket type things, and in here we want to do hash dot, and this needs to be our create synchronized scene. So just that, just like this, and we'll add that. Okay, and then so we need to do a comma after that, and now I've written down all the parameters that we'll need. So we'll create the synchronized scene on our character. This is probably not correct. This needs to, because of this synchronized scene, usually requires a sort of an extra prop to be the center, and I'm assuming the extra prop to be the actual deposit box. So I'm assuming that this might have positioning errors, so ignore that just for the moment. Depending on what synchronized scene you choose to do in the animations, then usually it's not an issue, but because the current props I've only done 2. I haven't done the actual position for the deposit box. It could be an issue, but we'll do position.x. So because it's native functions, you can't just put in the default position, the vector 3. We have to separate them into 3 items. So we'll go like that, and we'll change that to Y, and we'll change that to Z. Okay, so we'll also need the roll, float, pitch, and yaw. Pretty much we'll do game.player.character.rotation this time, not position. So dot rotation, and we'll do dot x. So I'll just grab this as well. Dot x, dot y, dot nz. Now I'm pretty sure P6 doesn't need to be anything. Let me just double check that. P6 always seems to be 2. Okay, so we'll set this, the very last thing after that, to be 2. I'm getting this info from nativeDB, which is the sort of thing, the database for all of the native functions. Alright, so once that's created, we can perform the animations on our scene. So now we'll go function.call hash, and we'll go we'll grab our task synchronized scene, which is for our player. Task synchronized scene again is only for peds, so it can be your character. We'll need the ped, which is game.player.character. We'll need the scene ID, which is coincidentally named sceneID, just for our example. This can be anything, obviously. It could be cash grabbing scene, it could be ped handshake scene, it could be I don't know, sit down on chair scene. It really can be anything. You get the point. But we'll move on. So we'll need the animationDictionary, which is this one here, the one with @ symbols in it, and this needs to be as a string. We'll need the animationName. Now let me just say some info about animations. When it comes to synchronized animations, pretty much 90% of the time, every time I come across synchronized animations, the animations for it, the most simple name, so just intro, will be for the ped. So we'll do this one for the ped right here, so we'll just do intro. So remember, this one's for our ped, the task synchronized scene. Alright, so for our task synchronized scene, we'll just copy these values for the peds. Pretty much just copy these numbers and you'll be set pretty much every single time for a pedestrian one. So we'll set it as that. Pretty much that's good. Then we'll go onto the next one, which will be function.call hash, and this will be our play synchronized entity animation, like that. So we'll need the entity, so we'll get our duffel bag, so we'll do our duffel bag one next. Duffel bag, we'll need synchronized scene ID, so this one's scene ID. Animation, so on a lot of the documentations it'll say animation and propName. This is actually wrong. What it needs to be is the animation name, this, like that, and then it needs to be the dictionary. So it's the opposite way around to the ped one. Pretty much for the last things on the synchronized scene, you want to copy these values. Pretty much, this will also set you for the prop animations. So we'll also duplicate this so that we have another line. So that's Control D to just duplicate that line. We'll change this to our drill, like so. We'll also copy the animation. Oh, sorry, I messed up the animations, my bad. So the duffel bag is meant to be bag intro, because that's the bag. You guys might have spotted that before I did, but pretty much this one's already correct. So drill for drill bit, and duffel bag for our bag. So that should be good, and of course we'll need to break it from the loop, so this will loop hundreds of times every second unless we change this to the next value. So we'll go scene index 20, so we'll go case 20 so that it will know what to do when it gets to 20. And then once we're on here, we'll use the last function that we have called get synchronized scene phase. So we'll go if function.call, function.call, and we'll return a bool because it's in an if statement, hash, and we'll get our get synchronized scene phase, and we'll enter in our scene ID, which is just scene ID, and we'll do if this is greater than 0.99 f. What did I do wrong? Oh, sorry, that's my bad. It's not a bullet, it's a float. So pretty much, synchronized scenes will progress from 0 to 1, and in like integer, float fashion. So once this is pretty much at the end, we could even just do 999, which will work still, but that's more precise. So pretty much it'll keep looping this, and until it's pretty much at the end of the synchronized scene. I found this works best than get is synchronized scene finished, because sometimes there's issues with that. Pretty much if we do this, then what we can do, we can just do game.player.character.task.clearAll, and we'll also do if drill does not equal null, we'll do drill.delete. So pretty much this will save us, or whenever you're deleting a prop, always do if it does not equal null, because otherwise you can try to delete something that doesn't exist and then your script will crash. So we want to do duffel bag, like that. So we have for both of the props. Now that is done, we can do scene index, and we'll just set this to our default position again. So do scene active equals false. So now this should be self sort of contained, and we can go Control Shift B to build our thing. We'll go to our script build location, which you can find in episode 1. Pretty much we'll drag our scene, this one, and the PDB as well, because the PDB will tell us exactly what's causing issues when we. Alright, so pretty much I had a bit of an issue. I realized that we'll actually also need to load the animation as well. So you can copy this function, so function.call hash.request animation or animdict, and comma anim, just all of this pretty much, just like that. And this will make sure that it loads, and the animation will play the first time you do it, because otherwise this would only work the second time that I did it. Also, there is a little bit of an issue, as you might notice with the animation. Not that the feet are in the ground, that's not really that much of an issue, but that we aren't holding any drill. So there are certain animations. This is sort of a bad example with the drill, but this also helps sometimes, because sometimes with certain animations you'll be sort of holding a prop. It really depends, but sometimes you'll have to attach the prop. This pretty much, you'll only need to do this if the synchronized animation is having issues. So pretty much to fix this, you'll need to attach the drill to the player in order for this to work. So we can do Control Shift B again to build it. Make sure you always do that before putting it in your scripts folder. And we'll reload this, and we'll just test it out. What? Alright, so you can see that now we hold out the drill like that. Okay, so the animation actually works all good now. There isn't a bit of an issue with it playing at the start going through the ground, but that's not really too bad. This just proves my point that sometimes you'll need to actually attach the prop to the hand of the player. Mainly you can find this out by the decompiled scripts in the game, and that will fix that. Also, I changed this prop for the drill to that because the other one wasn't working, so pretty much a lot of synchronized scenes are trial and error, and if you do need help, you can feel free to contact me on my Discord. But thing is though, if you're asking about the cache grabbing animation, I probably won't be as helpful, because it's sort of like, I don't know, it feels weird to like sort of give out a trade secret. You know, you can try and make it, but it's really up to you, like to get it to work. Pretty much, Cruel Master MC, you may know him from my Discord, and he's another scripter in the modding scene. Pretty much, he had zero coding experience about 5 months ago, and now he's creating mods that are just crazy good with all these synchronized scenes and stuff. They may seem complex at first, but if you have the dedication, you can really get some cool stuff done. Anyways, if you guys liked today's video, please like it. If you need any help, please leave a comment. I'd actually prefer you to join the Discord, because I can help you easier there, and there'll be a link in the description. I'll leave the template, but I won't be leaving this code to just copy in the description like episode 1. You have to watch the video to do this. But yeah, pretty much, yeah, that's it. Anyway, thank you guys. See ya.